Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening. Because of Benny's injury, Roxanne took a leave of absence for all three of her children and stayed at home to take care of Benny for the time being. Fortunately, the ointment she had developed was very effective, and when she applied it to Benny, his wound healed up rather quickly. In the past 2 days, Lucien would often come to visit the kids. While Roxanne was busy taking care of Benny, she was also worrying about the projects at the research institute. In the end, she found out that, except for the project with the Damaris family, all the other projects were progressing smoothly. Due to the previous incident, the project with the Damaris family had to be handled by Roxanne and Roxanne only. As such, the project was stalled the moment she left. Since she was preoccupied with taking care of Benny, it took Roxanne a few days to realize that she had forgotten to give Jack a heads up on the situation. Just when she was about to make a call to Jack to apologize, the man himself called her first. Upon seeing the caller ID, Roxanne answered the call immediately. With an apologetic tone, she greeted, "Je Mr. Damaris." In response, Jack's cold voice rang out. It's been a long time, Ms. Jarvis. I wonder how your drug research is going? Since we're partners, shouldn't you take the initiative to report this matter to me?" His tone was filled with a sense of superiority, as if he was commanding Roxanne to do her job. Although she felt uncomfortable at being chided, Roxanne was aware that she was in the wrong. As such, she decided to apologize. "I'm sorry, Mr. Damaris. I had some matters to take care of at home, so the research was temporarily delayed." When Jack heard this, his expression darkened, and his tone became even more displeased. The same thing happened last time, and now, you're giving me a similar excuse again? How many times are you going to delay the research progress because of your personal affairs, Ms. Jarvis? I bet the progress was delayed because she's out frolicking with Lucien again. Frowning, Roxanne explained, Benny's hand was injured, so I had to stay at home to look after him for a few days. Because of this, I had neither the time nor the heart to concern myself with matters happening at the research institute. Making up her mind, she added, Of course, I'm well aware that I am the one at fault for delaying the research progress. Mr. Damaris, if you're willing to put your trust in me, I'll do my best to catch up with the progress when I get back. That being said, I have no complaints as well if you don't want to wait any longer and wish to change a partner. I am also willing to compensate for the delay in accordance with Damaris Group's requirements. Although the project with Damaris Group is important, it is nothing when compared to my son's well-being. Jack's anger gradually dissipated when he heard that the matter Roxanne had to deal with involved her son. Subsequently, he started to panic when he realized she was proposing to cancel the cooperation. Easing his tone, he said, My apologies. I was reprimanding an employee earlier, and my temper got the better of me. I hope you won't mind that my tone was a bit harsh." Roxanne was as serious as ever when she asked, So what are your plans, Mr. Damaris? I'll give my full cooperation." Jack replied, Naturally, I'd like to keep cooperating with your research institute. After all, you are the best traditional medicine practitioner that I approve of in Chronicles. After saying that, he complained, Why didn't you tell me that Benny was hurt? If I had known about this, I would have given you a few days off, and we wouldn't be having this awkward conversation. Anyway, how is Benny faring? I'll pay him a visit next time." Roxanne felt Jack's tone sounded a little peculiar. Moreover, she also knew the kids weren't fond of him, so she rejected him on the spot. That's not needed. Benny's injury has almost recovered. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Damaris. Jack replied, It's better to take more precautions since he's just a child. I have a special ointment passed down in the Damaris family. I'll bring it over in a while to visit him. Sensing his insistence, Roxanne couldn't bring herself to refuse him again, so she had no choice but to agree. After hanging up the phone, Roxanne summoned the children and informed them about Jack's visit. Mommy, can you ask him not to come? Benny was reluctant to meet with Jack. Roxanne felt helpless, listening to Benny's words. I did turn him down, but he was determined to come. He has your best interest at heart, so don't blatantly show your dislike toward him later. With that, she turned to Estella. And you, Essie, do not repeat what you did previously. I'll ask him to leave as soon as possible. Estella nodded reluctantly. Although Roxanne had punished Estella by asking the latter to stand in a corner, the little girl didn't feel she had done anything wrong. Roxanne could tell the children were unhappy with that arrangement. She let out a sigh of resignation. I don't know what to do with these kids. Not long after, Jack showed up at the mansion's entrance. Roxanne opened the door and welcomed him into the house. Hello, Mr. Damaris. The three kids greeted him politely but none too enthusiastically. Seemingly ignorant to their indifference, Jack strode up to Benny. I heard that you were injured. Let me take a look. He reached out and grasped Benny's wrist after saying that. Benny was averse to Jack. Although the wound on his wrist had almost recovered, he feigned agony when Jack touched him and swiftly retracted his arm. Does it hurt a lot? Jack gazed at the kid scrutinizingly. Benny nodded as if he was indeed in pain. It hurts even with the slightest touch. Daddy is better, after all. He didn't touch my wrist when he visited me the other day. Jack sized up Benny for a few more seconds before standing up and handing Roxanne the small tube of ointment in his hand. This is a special medicine passed down in the Damaris family. Apply this on Benny's arm, and the injury will recover in no time. Roxanne received the medicine and courteously expressed her gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Damaris. Jack bobbed his head in response. Then, he casually swept his eyes across the three children. The kids had gathered around Roxanne and were eyeing him warily. They're regarding me with that look in their eyes again. A hint of displeasure surged within Jack. He couldn't be sure if Archie and Benny were Lucian's children, but it was evident that the boys were on Lucian's side. That reason alone was sufficient to invoke Jack's distaste toward the boys. I need to bring the kids out in a short while, so if there's nothing else, Mr. Damaris, Roxanne hinted at Jack for him to take his leave. Fortunately, he didn't insist on staying. Take good care of Benny. There's no hurry regarding the tasks at the research institute. Roxanne pursed her lips and smiled. Thank you. Don't worry. I'll make sure to finish the development of the new medicine within the given time frame. The two didn't chat further as Jack swiftly left afterward. Roxanne felt slightly suspicious as she watched his car disappear from her sight. Jack's sole purpose for making that trip was clearly to confirm whether Benny was truly injured. She could not shake off the feeling that Jack seemed to have changed in some aspects compared to when they first met. Due to Benny's injury, the three kids didn't attend their classes at the kindergarten for the time being. As a result, Ophelia didn't have the chance to make her move. Aubrey repeatedly received disappointing updates from Ophelia when she contacted the latter on multiple occasions. Exasperated, Aubrey invited Ophelia out once more. Aubrey, there's nothing I can do either. Who would have expected that batch to stop the other two kids from attending school after that little brat got hurt? Ophelia uttered helplessly. She thought she could still target Archie and Estella while Benny recuperated at home due to his injury. To her surprise, she received news that all three children had applied for leave the following day. Aubrey clenched her fists. Hatred filled her eyes as she spoke. That batch. The two women grimaced, stumped at the development. While vexed, Ophelia carefully observed the changes in Aubrey's countenance, fearing the latter might get sick and tired of her. After a long while, Aubrey piped up, you should resign. Upon hearing that, Ophelia furrowed her brows and hastily said, be patient, Aubrey. They'll have to return to school sooner or later. I'll have my chances when that happens. She thought Aubrey was giving up on her. If that were the case, the position Aubrey promised to secure for her at Pearson Group would become nothing but a dream. However, Aubrey merely glanced at her impatiently. I suspect they are starting to mistrust you. I'm afraid they will find out about our plan if you continue staying there, so there's no need to take this risk. Ophelia's tense facial expression significantly relaxed after she heard that. Still, she remained cautious. In that case, what should I? Aubrey said. I have a plan. You will resign for now and look for a place to lay low. I'll contact you afterward. Ophelia agreed. When she returned to the kindergarten, she met with Jeffrey to discuss her resignation. Jeffrey was puzzled by Ophelia's decision to quit after working there for just a few days. Is this because you think our kindergarten is not offering you optimal pay and benefits? Please voice out if you have any requests. I believe you're also aware of how important the class you're handling is, so we desperately need manpower currently. Ophelia wore a troubled look. That's exactly why I wish to resign. He frowned. What do you mean? Ophelia replied. You mentioned it yourself. The 3 kids in our class are the children of the Farwell family. I'm genuinely terrified now that one of them got hurt. I doubt my ability to take care of them, and I'm also afraid of facing the Farwell family's wrath should the kids get injured again. To sum it up, Ophelia was too timid. She stood firm on leaving even after he persuaded her for some time. Having no other choice, Jeffrey could only accept her notice to quit. After exiting the kindergarten, Ophelia used the money Aubrey gave her to check into a hotel while waiting for the latter to contact her. When they had their meal earlier, Aubrey merely told Ophelia she had a plan but didn't specify the details. Meanwhile, Aubrey returned to the mansion in the suburb. Disdain filled her eyes when she took in the mansion's run-down appearance. I will regain my previous lifestyle one day. Whoever wishes to live in this hellhole can feel free to do so. Roxanne, you batch, I will never let you off. Since you're keeping those children so well protected, I am left with no alternative but to target you. I will make sure you regret snatching what belongs to me. A vicious look crept over Aubrey's face when she thought of her plan. Just you wait, Roxanne. I'll let you experience the suffering I've endured. You will pay dearly for what you've done to me. Meanwhile, Freda could not help but feel uneasy as she had not received any news from Aubrey for several days. She knew Aubrey would not let the matter slide without a fight. Freda also believed that she was the only person Aubrey could rely on. She would not have had any problem with Aubrey asking her for money, but the biggest issue was that she had not heard from Aubrey in the last couple of days. Freda was worried that Aubrey might become desperate and drag her down with her. With each passing day without any news from Aubrey, she grew increasingly restless. In the afternoon, Freda did not wait for the end of the workday before packing her bag and leaving Queen Group in haste, driving toward the suburbs. She had to go and check on Aubrey personally. Otherwise, she would not feel at peace. After arriving at the entrance of the suburban mansion, Freda stood hesitantly outside the gate. The crazy look on Gina's face was still fresh in her memory. Freda was worried that Gina might confront her aggressively if she barged into the mansion and bumped into that woman again. After giving it some thought, she gave Aubrey a call. It did not take long before Aubrey answered the call. What's up, Freda?" Aubrey's voice was calm, almost unaffected. It was as if she was not bothered by anything at all. Freda was bewildered by her friend's demeanor, but she dared not express it. She said, "Aubrey, I'm here to see you. I'm downstairs at your house now. Your mom." Hearing the anxiety in her voice, Aubrey chuckled lightly. Come on in. They're not at home." These days, Samuel and Gina had been reaching out to others, seeking help and hoping that someone would lend them a helping hand. Little did they know that the entire Horrington knew they had offended the Farwell family. Who would dare to go against the Farwells to help them? Freda heaved a sigh of relief when she learned that Gina was away. After entering the villa, she proceeded directly to Aubrey's bedroom. Aubrey's room remained tidy, even though she had fallen on hard times. It looked almost the same as her previous bedroom. Well, look who's here. What brings you here today? Aubrey looked at the person in front of her, with a hint of mockery in her eyes. A hint of guilt flashed across Freda's eyes. Panicked, she fished a card out of her bag and handed it to Aubrey. I was worried you might not have enough money. There's 500,000 in this card. Feel free to use it first. She had come all the way here to give Aubrey money. That was the only intention she had in mind. Yet, after seeing how carefree and cheerful Aubrey was, Freda felt a little uneasy. Aubrey seemed to be in a much better mood than before, and there was no sign of her previous resentment. Freda was afraid she had already done something behind her back, but she dared not ask directly. She did not want to risk provoking Aubrey and making her go crazy. After a brief consideration, Freda continued trying to please her. I think you must be bored being alone. There's a new bar in town. Shall we go have a drink tonight? Aubrey sized her up for a bit before agreeing without uttering anything. Since it would take time for her to carry out her plan, she might as well have some fun first. As the sky gradually darkened, Freda drove Aubrey into the city, taking numerous turns before arriving at a narrow alley where the new bar was situated. The dispute between the Pearson and the Farwell had caused a big fuss, and this bar happened to be opened by someone in their social circle. Thus, Freda deliberately chose a secluded booth to avoid being seen hanging out with Aubrey. Once they were seated, Freda began to pour alcohol for Aubrey, hoping to get her drunk and then coax some information out of her. The two of them drank non-stop, one shot after another. Little did they know someone had been monitoring them from the minute they stepped into the bar. Upon noticing that the two women had almost finished their drinks, a man leisurely got up, walked downstairs, and sat beside them while holding a glass of wine. Excuse me, ladies. Mind if I join you for a drink? The man slid into the seat next to Aubrey, his movements intentionally brushing against her body. Due to Freda's persistent pouring, Aubrey was already inebriated by that time. Thus, not only was her guard down, but she even leaned onto the newcomer's chest. Freda, on the other hand, was more cautious. Do we know you? She asked. The man flashed a calm smile and reached out to clink glasses with the glass in front of Freda. Perhaps not yet, but we'll get there eventually. He turned to Aubrey, giving her a flirtatious grin. He looks like this young lady is quite fond of me. After downing half of the wine in his glass, he poured the remaining into Aubrey's mouth. Aubrey, who was already not in the right state of mind, gripped his wrist, pulled the glass closer to her, and gulped the wine. Aubrey. Freda was getting anxious. Although she was wary of Aubrey, it did not mean she could allow a man to take advantage of someone she was once close with. She got up, wanting to pull Aubrey over to her side. Before she could do that, the man grabbed her wrist with a smirk and uttered in an icy tone, "Yeah, the lady accepted my drink, so she's mine tonight. Since she didn't turn me down, you better not ruin my fun." Freda suddenly became alert. Who are you? Let go of Aubrey." After pushing Freda, causing her to fall on the couch, the man gently lifted Aubrey's body onto his shoulder in a fireman's carry and walked to the door. Freda was both shocked and scared. Getting up from the couch, she tried to catch up to the man. Unfortunately, she found it challenging to navigate through the crowded bar as she had sprained her ankle when the man shoved her to the couch just now. In the blink of an eye, the man and Aubrey disappeared from her view. Freda immediately went into panic mode. If something awful happens to Aubrey tonight, Freda's concern grew as she worried that her well-intentioned actions could backfire and cause Aubrey to spiral into a state of insanity once again. If that happened, the latter might just drag Freda down with her. The thought of that possibility made Freda grit her teeth and bear the pain in her foot as she searched through the crowd for any sign of them. Despite her best efforts, Freda was unable to locate Aubrey and the man, leaving her feeling helpless and uneasy. However, as she scanned the room, her eyes fell upon a familiar figure standing in the corner. The person was holding a mobile phone aimed in the direction of the door and seemed to be taking photos. Freda walked up to the person. Corey. Corey paused for a moment and put down his phone. His once delicate face had become gaunt and unrecognizable. "Miss Queen, long time no see." Freda looked at him sternly, and her eyes filled with caution. What are you doing here? Whose photos are you taking?" If her memory served her correctly, her brother had explicitly informed her that Lucian had sent the private detective packing. Moreover, he had allegedly gotten into some serious trouble at the casino and was supposed to be dead by now. What is he doing here? Did he snap photos of me drinking with Aubrey just now? Corey's face was clouded over with disdain. Obviously, I'm taking a picture of my lovely ex-boss. Aubrey was the one who made me who I am today. How can I possibly forgive her so easily?" As he spoke, an ominous aura radiated from him as if he were a devil from hell. There was an imminent chill in the air that seemed to come from his sheer hatred toward Aubrey. Freda couldn't help but shudder at his demeanor. Have you gone insane? The Pearson family is already in ruins. How are you still not satisfied yet?" Corey snickered. I won't be satisfied until she truly gets what she deserves. Besides, she did this to herself." He narrowed his eyes and began scrutinizing the people in front of him. "You don't have to play pretend around me, Miss Queen. Don't you want to shut her up for good too? In fact, you're probably still getting threatened by her, right?" Freda's eyelids quivered as she forced herself to look away. I don't know what you're talking about." She might have done her best to play it off, but she had faltered for a little bit too long for Corey to miss it. He scoffed. You have no idea what sort of life I've been living for the past few days. Aubrey's the one I'm after right now, so you better not get in my way. If not, I'm not afraid to drag you down with me. I only have one life left to live, and if anyone pisses me off, I'll make sure they pay." Freda felt a chill run down her spine and found herself at a loss for words. Corey simply glared at her before tucking his phone in his pocket and walking out of the bar. As she watched his retreating figure, she began to feel something wasn't right. Eventually, she noticed he was limping. One of his legs was injured. Her brother's words suddenly popped into her head. It seems Corey was really captured by those people at the casino. She had never experienced it herself, but she knew how ruthless those people could be. She couldn't bear to imagine the torture Corey must have gone through with them. However, she was curious about how he had managed to escape. No wonder he hates Aubrey so much. The sight of a man in his prime getting reduced to such a state truly shocked her. She was taken aback but also terrified. The three of them had been on the same boat once. Aubrey and Corey had fallen so far from grace that she couldn't help but wonder if she would be next. No, I can't become like them. Freda rushed to get her bag and hurried out of the bar. She had to quickly come up with a plan to get rid of the bloodsucker named Aubrey. After walking out of the bar, Corey continued limping with difficulty into a small alley. He was drenched in sweat even after such a simple task. He had been hanging on the brink of death when he got captured by the casino workers, and it was through sheer luck and desperation that he had even gotten out alive. Sadly, his leg would never fully recover. It was exhausting for him to walk even a short distance. He had to take a break to regain his strength. He took his phone out and stared at the picture of Aubrey on it with an evil glint in his eyes. If it wasn't for her, he would never have gotten into such trouble. He had been reduced to that ghastly state, and he would make sure Aubrey paid for that. He wanted to drag her down to hell with him. After he typed something on his phone, a notification that reads "e-message sent" popped up on his screen. He snorted triumphantly and tucked his phone back into his pocket before limping further into the dark alley. At that moment in the Farwell residence, Lucian had just finished his work and was about to give Roxanne a call. Since Estella was now staying at Roxanne's house, Lucian kept using it as an excuse to call her whenever he had time. He had just picked up his phone when a message from an unfamiliar number popped up. Lucian frowned and opened it. A few pictures began loading on the screen. They were taken in a bar, and the dim lighting made it hard to make out most of the details. However, Right in the middle of the picture was Aubrey, all cozied up against a random man as she sipped from his glass. The pictures after that were all of them leaving together. Lucian's eyes gleamed with disdain. The Pearson family was now in near shambles, but Aubrey somehow still had the nerve to go out and party as if nothing had ever happened. Who could guarantee that she hadn't done the same in the 6 years that she had been with him? He saved the pictures and forwarded them all to his mother without explaining anything. He felt the pictures already spoke for themselves and Sonia would understand him well enough. After that, Lucian finally called Roxanne like he had been meaning to and began talking about Estella to cover up the real reason he called. Early the next morning, Aubrey woke up in a hotel room. Her hangover made her head hurt, and she felt sluggish. When she opened her eyes, the unfamiliar surroundings that slowly swam into view caused her to frown in confusion. She was about to get up and try to find out where she was when she realized with a shock that she was naked. Apart from that, her back and waist were also screaming in pain. Her eyes widened in surprise and she pulled the blanket aside, only to find bruises and marks all over her body. It was clearer than day what had happened last night. She gripped the blanket so tightly she could feel her nails digging through the fabric as she sat in a panic. She couldn't remember anything, not even the face of the man she had slept with last night. The door suddenly opened right as her panic was beginning to eat her alive. She pulled the blanket up and wrapped it around herself tightly as she stared at the doorway defiantly, trying to act composed. A tall man walked into the room. His handsome face lit up with an ambiguous smile when he saw that Aubrey was awake. I should have been there next to you. What a shame that I had to miss such a beautiful moment. It's you." Aubrey had a sinking gut feeling that the man in front of her was the one she had slept with last night. She gripped the blanket again, wishing she could disappear inside of it. Who are you? Who sent you here?" The man simply continued staring at her and licked his lips greedily as his eyes glinted coldly. "You don't have to be so on edge around me, Miss Pearson. I'm not someone who can be ordered around so easily. What if I was just craving your beauty?" Aubrey stared at him with wide eyes, her expression full of distrust. I don't care what you are. Get out right now and forget everything that happened last night or you won't live to see another day." The man shrugged almost regretfully and leaned down. The collar of his black button-up opened slightly and as he lowered his head toward Aubrey, his toned chest began to show slightly. His entire being radiated with nonchalance. Even Aubrey couldn't take her eyes off of him. "I would say I'm pretty easy on the eyes. Getting to sleep with me isn't that much of a loss for you." He tucked a finger under her chin and lifted it so that she was looking right at him. You truly are a delicacy. I hope you won't forget me anytime soon." As he spoke, his hand began to slide down Aubrey's neck, and he started to bend down until he was hovering right over her. She snapped back to her senses and pushed his hand away with a scowl on her face. Get out. Don't make me repeat myself." The man chuckled amusedly at her angry look and actually began to walk out. Soon enough, Aubrey was left alone in the hotel room. She began to look around her, trying to recall what had happened last night. No matter how much she tried to make sense of her surroundings, she just couldn't remember what happened. She had assumed that someone had been hired to assault her. However, that man didn't look like someone who could be hired. In fact, he looked more like the one who would be doing the hiring. Aubrey felt a little more relieved at that. Maybe it really was just a drunk mistake. No matter what had actually transpired, she couldn't stay here any longer. Gritting her teeth against the pain radiating from her waist, she got out of bed and was about to put her clothes back on when she heard the door swing open again. The man had returned. Aubrey screamed in shock and quickly wrapped the hotel robe around her, glaring at him in rage. He innocently held up the bag he was holding. "You must be exhausted after everything that happened last night, Miss Pearson. I went to buy some breakfast for you." Then, with a smirk, he continued, I already saw everything you have to offer last night. Don't bother covering up around me." Aubrey's face was bright red with shame and anger. Stop looking at me." He obediently turned around. Just a moment later, he turned back around and nonchalantly placed her breakfast on the table before beckoning for her to come and eat. Aubrey only had time to properly tie the robe around herself. Still, she felt much more confident now that she was actually dressed. How do you know who I am?" she asked, looking at him cautiously. He rose an eyebrow. It's not that hard to figure out. Is there a single person in Horrington who doesn't know about you and Mr. Farwell?" Aubrey's face contorted when the man mentioned her past relationship. Shut up." The man shrugged, unfazed, before laying her breakfast out for her. Aubrey sat down with a frigid expression and began eating. The fact was that whatever happened last night couldn't be undone, and that man had already told her that he knew about her and Lucian's relationship. She suspected that the worst-case scenario was that he wanted to take advantage of her when she was at her lowest. If this had happened in the past, she would never have let him get away with it. Now, however, she was beginning to think that he could be put to good use. All it would take was just her body to win him over, and at this point in her life, there was nothing she wasn't willing to sell out. The mysterious man's aura and the hotel room she was in both boasted his financial state. Even if the Pearson family could no longer rise from the ashes again, she could still use this man to show Roxanne who she was messing with. Her expression softened, and she even began to form some semblance of a smile when she looked up at the man. "What are you looking at?" she asked warily, noticing how the man would look at her occasionally from his phone. He frowned and said helplessly, "It's company stuff. Imagine bothering me this early without even a good morning to be heard." He started tapping on his phone again as he spoke. Aubrey was still feeling ill at ease when she saw the way he behaved. The man glanced at her calmly. True enough, he was chatting on WhatsApp. When she saw that, she had no choice but to stop questioning him. After breakfast, the man, being the gentleman he was, offered to send her back. Aubrey turned him down without any hesitation. It's fine. I can go back on my own." She reckoned if he saw the dire straits that the Pearson family was in, he would never look at her again, let alone help her in the future. Thankfully, he did not insist on sending her back. Aubrey called for a cab when she came out of the hotel. Before leaving, she checked the rearview mirror to see if the man was following her. When she was certain that he was not following her, she told the driver her address in the suburbs. The man stood at the entrance of the hotel, and the smile on his face had gone awry. Right then, his phone rang. It was a message from his assistant that read, "Mr. Crawford, the photos have already been distributed to the various media in Horrington. Very soon, they will spread around." Sean Crawford smiled with satisfaction before replying, "All right." Lucian had appeared out of nowhere a few years ago and outshone all the youths in the business world. Sean did not like the feeling that someone was better than him, so he decided to go abroad to develop his career. Since he had only returned home 2 days ago, he had no idea about the cancellation of the engagement between Lucian and Aubrey. The moment he returned home, he had gone drinking at the bar with some friends. That was where he bumped into Aubrey and Freda. Without hesitation, Sean took advantage of Aubrey. Having been suppressed by Lucian for so long, Sean could not wait to embarrass him. If the world found out that Lucian's fiancée was such a promiscuous woman, there was no way he could face the world. Sean found it hilarious when he recalled how gullible Aubrey was. Not only did she believe him, but she even attempted to make use of him. This woman is so dumb. I wonder what Lucian sees in her. That very afternoon, one photo began spreading like wildfire all over the internet. It was a photo of Aubrey in her nightgown. Her hair was messy, and her neck was covered with hickeys. One look and anyone could tell that they were freshly planted. Instantly, the internet was in an uproar. The moment Sean knew about it, he kept his eyes on the comments online. He had thought that people would accuse Lucian of being weak and incapable and that he could not even keep a close watch on his fiancée. Yet he did not expect the netizens to scold Aubrey alone. They were very supportive of Lucian instead. One netizen commented, "No wonder Mr. Farwell says there is something wrong with her character. She claims that she has been waiting for Mr. Farwell for 6 years. Yet, shortly after the cancellation of their engagement, she sleeps with another man." Another wrote, "TSK. What a hussy. She has finally shown her true colors. She's not fit to be with Mr. Farwell." Someone posted, "Looks like Mr. Farwell and his original spouse are indeed a match made in heaven. Aubrey Pearson is not good enough for Mr. Farwell at all." Sean was perplexed as he read the online comments. Their engagement has been called off? When did that happen? How come I didn't hear anything about it? He closed the social media app and searched for Kai Jackson's phone number. Kai was one of his closest friends in Chennai, EA. The call was answered very quickly. "Ayo. I can't believe a busy man like you has the time to call me. I heard you came back. When shall we meet up for a meal?" Sean was not in the mood for small talk with his friend. Instead, he went straight to the point. What's going on between Lucian and his fiancée?" "Fiancée?" Kai shot back a question with a meaningful look. Which fiancée are you talking about? During your absence, a lot of things have happened in Mr. Farwell's life." Sean's heart sank slightly when he heard that. What do you mean? Isn't Aubrey Pearson his fiancée?" Kai laughed out loud when he heard that. That was 800 years ago. Back then, I noticed that Lucian had been treating Aubrey with indifference. I found it strange that the Farwell and Pearson families have managed to hold on to the engagement for many years. Sean did not respond. Instead, he continued to listen to his friend's rambling. The Farwell family called off the engagement 2 years ago. Lucian even implied that Aubrey has a poor character. It turns out that his ex-wife is back in the country with 2 children. Right now, the Pearson family is being made bankrupt by the Farwell family, and Lucian is getting it on with his ex-wife again. Kai was very animated when he was gossiping. It was as if he could not wait to get involved in the drama. Back then, who would have thought that Lucian's love life would have so many ups and downs? Sean was also very shocked when he heard that. As far as he knew, Lucian had always been a cold person. He did not expect Lucian to do something like that. Sean was very disappointed when he realized that everything he had planned the night before had gone to waste. I can't believe they call off their engagement. Such a pity. Then again, that woman is not too bad at all. This time, Kai was the one who was startled. Which woman are you talking about? Please don't tell me that my good buddy has slept with Lucian's ex-wife the moment he comes back. Sean tooted. Of course, I'm referring to Aubrey. Who else can it be? I thought they were still engaged. Everything had happened too abruptly the previous night. He had noticed Freda with Aubrey and automatically assumed that the 3 families were still as close as before. There was no time for him to find out about the real situation. However, all was not lost. That woman was really something. The only annoying part was he ended up sleeping with Lucian's garbage. Kai let out a sigh of relief. Given the position the Pearson family is in now, you will have no issue paying for one night for her company. Just as he finished talking, he suddenly realized something. Were you the one who posted that photo online? Sean admitted nonchalantly, yes. Unfortunately, I couldn't achieve my goal. Having been friends with him for several years, Kai naturally knew what he meant. Sean had been suppressed by Lucian all the while. All Sean wanted to do was embarrass Lucian. As usual, his scheme did not go as planned. Kai sighed because he felt sorry for his friend. At the moment you return home, you pull off such a stunt. It looks like you intend to fight it out with Lucian this time. There was undisguised ambition in Sean's eyes. Yet, his voice gave the impression that he did not care. I just want to assert my dominance. That's all. Even though my plan has failed, it's fine. I'm not in a hurry to compete against him. Lucian has made much progress in Horrington all these years. It will take more than a day for me to defeat him. I'll have to take my time and consider my moves. There was also something else that Sean did not mention. It was only a matter of time before he would defeat Lucian. The whole world would know that Lucian was nothing but a loser. I, Sean Crawford, am the true business genius.
He smiled respectfully.
I'm on your side. Make sure you show Lucian who you really are. Sean chuckled and said nothing. Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.